Welcome back to Submedium Banter.
Woo!
Thank you to our live studio audience.
I'll input a laugh track.
Season 2.
Episode 3.
Episode 6 overall?
Yes.
Yes.
We're at an even...
First take, baby.
Oh, yeah. You know what I've noticed, though? This season, the episode titles so far have been rather ominous.
Yeah.
We got Kidnapping Jesse and then definitely Not Mind Control, which despite it wanting to be comforting is actually has the opposite effect.
Yeah, it's like if you buy a cereal that says like definitely won't kill you. It's like,
yeah.
Why would it?
Yeah. Take me back to the days when we named the episode "The Lick is Inevitable."
Now that I don't know if we'll ever top that title. I'll be honest. That's a pretty amazing title.
Yeah.
Our titles were pretty great. They're still pretty great. I'll say it.
You said it.
We will remain with the ominous titles because it is clickbait, and we're trying to get new audiences.
All the other aliens.
Yeah. That's really and so obviously the titles so far, even though they've been incredible, haven't been working. So we're going with a more aggressive, scary theme to intrigue new listeners.
Sounds good.
Anyway, I don't know what today's episode is going to be called, but
I'll find out when I'm editing.
This is true. Okay, so what are we going to start with?
Let's go with procrastination.
Sounds good.
Because I know all 8 billion of us are very acquainted with this phenomenon.
This is true. I know I am.
Same. So first, the reason I have been thinking about this is because I found a YouTuber, and I literally have forgotten what the channel is called, but I'm going to find it in 5, 4, 3, 2. Okay. So the channel is called Healthy Gamer GG. I don't know why it's called that. But the guy who runs it is actually a psychiatrist who graduated from Harvard, so he's pretty legit, I would say. And he made a video about procrastination, and he said, actually, procrastination shouldn't be really considered one thing, because there's different types of procrastinating, and you would handle each type differently. So actually the first thing he said was that procrastination isn't really like an issue like other things are. Like, it's not the issue that we think it is. It's actually just a mechanism for our brain to be like, do things more efficiently. So like the example he had was like, why would you write an essay, like a term paper at college, over the course of like 3 months when you could just write it in the week before it was due? Even if it ends up being a little bit worse, the efficiency kind of overrides like quality or whatever in this situation. So anyway, that was the first thing that I thought was interesting. Like, procrastination isn't really an issue. You can use it to your advantage for sure. But that being said, he said there's like 3 different types, which this is what I thought was really interesting. The 3 different types were idealistic, avoidance, and operational. And I'm going to try and quickly summarize what these are about so we can find out which ones we identify with. So idealistic is when you have in your mind a totally unreasonable goal that because you have this unreasonable goal in mind, you just never start it because it doesn't feel possible. I think that's essentially what it was. So I think the example for that one was like people in COVID were like, oh, since I can't go out or whatever, I'm gonna eat super healthy, exercise every day, and like learn 5 new languages. And like this is like a total ridiculous goal that like no one could ever achieve. At least normal people couldn't. So like that prevents you from even like starting, which makes sense, but it's not something I particularly connect with. How about you?
I think I do identify with that kind of procrastination. I don't know what the other two are, so I don't know if I identify with more than one yet.
Yeah.
I definitely, because I think it's pretty. It sounds pretty equivalent to like feeling burned out if you like attempt to start it rather than like just never start. But yeah, I mean, I think this is really easy to do, and I definitely found myself doing it where I'll like overschedule a day where I'm like, I know exactly what I'm going to be doing for the entirety of the day. But then like as soon as the day starts, I'm like, oh man, I can't keep to this schedule. Like I need a break somewhere, and I don't normally like plan a break for myself because I'm like, no, you don't need it as long as you pursue. And so it's an unreasonable goal that never gets started even because it feels impossible.
Yeah. I'm looking back at the video again, and the thing he wrote down was you'd rather take a 100% chance of an F rather than a 20% chance at an A.
Yeah, I mean, I can't relate to it in that sense, but
Yeah,
I
like an
definitely,
academic one.
yeah, but I can definitely relate to it in other aspects.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I had the most trouble, like, with watching this video and trying to connect it to my own life. Like, all the examples, and for good reason, are academic related because it's easy to convey, like, A's. You know, grades are, like, a very clear-cut, like, kind of goal / things that people procrastinate doing, whatever. That was just a blob of words.
That's okay. You got all the words that you needed, and the audience can arrange them in the order.
Yeah, but anyway, the point being, yeah, it definitely would apply to other areas other than grades. Okay, so on to the next type of procrastination.
Yeah.
It's called avoidance, which I really connected with. Okay, so avoidance procrastination, to my understanding, it's you're avoiding certain negative emotions by procrastinating. It's basically a defense mechanism. So, like, if you know that doing something might result in negative emotions, then you're like, I'm just not gonna do that. And then I'll avoid the emotion, which is hilarious because if you don't do the thing, then if you're me, then you just get very stressed out and anxious about it. So it sucks either way. Yeah, basically, it's a defense against feeling negative things. Oh, the example he used was like not wanting to like ask for an extension for a deadline on a paper or something from your professor because you don't want your professor to think you're stupid or incompetent or any of those things. Yeah. Thoughts?
Yeah, I think I relate to this one less than the first one, but I definitely still think it applies. I think sometimes it applies with musical things when it comes to practicing, because especially with like French horn, if I don't warm up for a decent amount of time, like before I play, I need to set some time. But if I want to actually like practice and like really work on something, like I have to be probably warmed up. And so sometimes I'll like rationalize my way out of practicing because I'm like, what if I warm up and then I get to what I'm practicing and I'm like way behind what I should be. I might try and play through it and be like, man, like I should be better at this by now. But then just not practicing is like, well, I could be good enough at it or I might not be. Like I don't know exactly where I am with
like
it. Since
Schrodinger's practicing.
Yeah, and so it's easier to deal with the uncertainty sometimes than to go and find out for sure if I'm where I need to be with a certain piece or just in general.
Right.
So
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to connect this because, like, I'm not sure if I'm kind of taking this out of context, but I feel like this most relates to me avoiding doing something because, oh yeah, I think it really does. Sometimes, so I'm an audio engineer. It's what I'm studying at college. And I will avoid doing like mixes or masters because I know once I start, I'll get like frustrated that I'm not better at it. And it comes with feelings of like disappointment and like sometimes embarrassment, I guess. Generally, negative emotions, obviously. Like I don't start a mix and I'm like, hell yeah, I'm really good at this.
Yeah.
It's usually the exact opposite. And then there's also the feeling that like, oh, I've been doing this for 3 years, I should be better by now. And these are all negative emotions that I would rather avoid by not interfacing with that at all. Even though I like audio engineering a lot, it's a lot of fun. I just feel like I should be better, I guess.
Yeah, I feel like it's not exactly the same, but also like I'll want to like try and record things that I'm working on like better than just like a quick like recording on my phone to like remember what it is. Like sometimes I'll like want to try and put maybe like a piano part and vocals together or a piano part and horn together, and like I have a halfway decent mic that I can hook up to like Audacity, and but like it's so frustrating how low of a production value that I'm able to achieve, and it really frustrates me because like even if I get something to sound like okay to like just listen to for like a concept or a demo, like it's still like it's so much work to get there because I just don't have like anything that I need to. And so like I think it's not exactly the same, but like I know that I'm gonna feel frustrated if I try to like get anything to really sound that good because it's just difficult.
Yeah. And I guess I don't have anything else particularly to say about this one. But this is definitely the one I feel I connect the most with. At least with the type of procrastination that like is the most deeply troubling for me, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
Because the last one is like kind of stupid, and we'll get there. But it's like, it makes you feel kind of silly, but it's not like a deep, like, I don't know how to stop doing this kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing about avoidance procrastination is the psychiatrist in the video recommended to first identify the emotion that you're trying to avoid feeling, and then like trying to put yourself in like a friend's shoes and like what would they say to you if you told them what you're trying, what like the negative emotion I think often comes from like a self-critical point of view. So like if you had a friend to tell you like, oh, it's fine, like you're in like in my case, like, oh, it's fine, you're still learning, like like way more than you did last year and you're way better than you were last year, so like the only way growth will continue is if you keep on doing stuff. Then you can kind of flip it to be a little bit more positive to engage in the activity that may have given you negative feelings before. So that's that. I have never related to anything more in my life, to be honest. So the third type I think is kind of funny. It's called operational procrastination. Okay, so operational procrastination, I literally forgot the word, is like you wanting to not do something because the task is unclear. It's like presented in an abstract way. And like this is like this, for me, like the stupidest procrastination, because if you just take the time to like break it down into chunks, it's not abstract anymore, and it's fairly easy to do the first chunk. But like if you never get past the process of like if you just look at this abstract thing that you have to do and you can't, if you don't or you can't or you don't think of the possibilities of like chunking it out into small tasks, then it remains nebulous and impossible.
Well, yeah, I feel like I don't know if this makes complete sense, but I feel like I almost sometimes do this like on purpose, like with schoolwork. Because like if I have a big paper that's due or like a rough draft coming up, sometimes I'll be like, maybe I'll skim the prompt. And like this is more prominent with online classes because in an in-person class, like the teacher would probably go over the or the grading criteria in class
Mm-hmm.
and stuff and more specific. But with some like an online English class that I had, it was like we didn't have class together. It was just assignments that you had to do. And so I was like, well, I'm not going to even look at what all I have to do until later because it'll just stress me out if I know everything that I have to do.
Yeah.
And so but like, I knew that I could get it done by the time I was going to start it, even if it wasn't going to be the best that I could do. But
Mm-hmm.
so like I would keep it abstract on purpose and be like, I don't want to figure out how exactly. And that definitely leads to anxiety whenever I actually go to start it
Mm-hmm.
because I like I won't look at what I have to do until I'm like, okay, I'm doing it all now. So
Yeah.
it definitely leads to more stress in the moment, but
Mm-hmm.
it helps me ignore it for longer, which is, yeah, I mean,
Right.
it's avoidance.
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
definitely like did it consciously. I don't know if it started out like I might have done it unconsciously and then like just thought about it and preferred it. But yeah, I definitely know that I do that, but also like kind of okay with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think I do that. Like I'd rather just oh, well, I don't know if I'd rather do this, but this is what I do is I look at everything just in case, I suppose.
Yeah.
Um and then I end up I don't know. Having a schedule is nice, knowing when everything's due. But I also have very vivid memories in high school of like the first day of classes being the absolute worst because especially in like AP classes, they would give you like a week by week or even day by day schedule of like the entire year. And it was just like I literally had a massive headache by the end of the first day just because of that.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is what it is. But
I would always get those and be like, meh, who needs it?
yeah, I wish I was like that. But okay, so the other like kind of hallmark of operational procrastination is that like after you do the thing, you kind of feel like, oh, that wasn't that bad. Like I should have done that way earlier. Like it wasn't worth the, I suppose, the stress or whatever you're feeling by procrastinating. Like,
I don't know. I'd probably feel that way if like it didn't work out more. But I don't like I generally don't regret procrastinating. I don't know. I feel like I do it pretty effectively. Like I know like I can write a paper in a day
right?
if it's not like a crazy long paper obviously.
Yeah.
And then I'll do it and as long as I don't get a bad grade on it, I'm like yeah, that was pretty good. And it only
Yeah.
took one day of work.
Yeah. Honestly, I think we're very different in that aspect because
Yeah.
like because I had like a term I don't know why I call them term papers. I'm not British.
A template.
Term paper. Anyway, I was writing I wasn't writing rather. I was assigned a massive research paper that was introduced to us as an assignment at the beginning of the semester and was due at the end of finals week.
Wow.
And instead of me, I feel like the rational things to do would either get started on it right away if it's gonna stress you out if you don't do it, or if you're comfortable with procrastinating, it doesn't affect your mental health, then wait until like 2 weeks before. Because, I mean, with research essays, you have to do the research first and then write the essay. So I'd say like 2 weeks. But I do this thing where like I'm like I should really get started on this and then I don't. And I feel this is obviously very common, but like I don't start it and then that literally hangs over my head the whole semester.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish I could figure out a way to let it not do that. Cuz like obviously I knew somewhere inside of me I had the capability of doing a research essay in 2 weeks and I'd be fine. And that's when I started. It was 2 weeks until the deadline. But like I don't know. I think that specific experience was probably a combination of the second and third, avoidance and operational, because the research topic was basically up to me. It had to be like tangentially related to the class, but like other than that, I could pick what I wanted. And so like picking the topic was the hardest part of the process because that
Mm-hmm.
changes it from an abstract to a concrete kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I definitely feel avoidance like is worse for me. Avoidance procrastination, but operational I definitely experience a lot, and it's just like stupid stuff usually.
Yeah.
Cool. It's raining. I don't know if the mics are going to pick this up, but
Yeah, raining and
it's stormy.
thundering.
It's very cool. It's a vibe. Um so I guess more specifically, so we talked kind of generally and a little bit kind of specifically, but let's get more specific. Do you think there's like a difference between the way you procrastinate with like regular schoolwork, regular being like gen eds, versus what your procrastination for like stuff you actually like really care about in terms of your career? Like for you, it would be composition.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have trouble with procrastination in terms of both aspects, but I mean, I think about them differently, and I'm a lot better about it with especially composition specifically. One, because I pretty much always enjoy writing music. Very occasionally, I'll get like frustrated enough where I'm like, I don't have anything.
Mm-hmm.
But like being surrounded with music every day and like doing so much music in like different aspects, in like an everyday sense, I think really helps a lot with just like being able to come up with more ideas.
Yeah.
And so writing music is generally a positive experience for me pretty consistently. So it's definitely easier for me to do it rather than schoolwork. Also, it's a lot easier for me to quantify, like just approximate how long like gen ed assignments are going to take. Because I'm pretty good at being like, oh, that won't take very long. Like I can do this at this certain time. And even if it's like cutting it close, I'm generally better at it. Whereas like if I need to write music for a composition lesson, I might be able to get it done the day before, but I also might like try and play through the whole or play or write whatever through the whole day before and come up with like barely anything.
Hmm.
And so I think my like floor for how like much I would procrastinate composition versus schoolwork is a lot higher. Like I would still wait longer than I wanted to throughout the week before trying to write music. And I would
Mm-hmm.
think like right after my lesson, I'm like, oh, I should go work on some more stuff. And so many times, like a couple days would go by, and I would be like, shoot, shoot, shoot. Generally, I'd still put a lot of effort into it, just because of how much I enjoy it, and also because I know how important it is. Like in terms of if I want it to make it my career, then I need to do it.
Yeah.
So I definitely still have trouble with procrastinating it, but never to the same extent because like also like if I slack off and don't have much for my lesson, I'm either going to have like a short lesson or I don't know. Like I would always make sure pretty much that I would show up with enough stuff to like talk about for the extent of my
Right.
lesson because I
Yeah.
never wanted to waste the time that I'm like paying for.
Yeah.
Whereas like if I'm in a gen ed class, I'm like, oh, well, if I forget about one 5-point assignment, why do I care?
Yeah.
It's a lot
Yeah.
easier to procrastinate because the stakes are a lot lower. Whereas, like,
Mm-hmm.
if I'm in a one-on-one setting every week talking about what I'm doing in terms of composition, then the effects are a lot bigger and worse.
Yeah.
Even if I just am like a little less prepared than usual, like
Yeah.
I still know because it's not like my professor would like yell at me or anything.
Right.
Like
Yeah, I think, I mean, like, especially since it's like the one on one kind of thing, like,
the
the
accountability
success
is
of
there.
the class is wholly dependent on what you did the week previous to prepare for it. And if you love what you're doing and you also respect your teacher, then you want to make that a good experience. But it's like a lot of pressure. But
Yeah, and I think also something that helped was I just get along extremely well with my composition professor, and anytime I show him like whatever I'm working on, he like always has suggestions that I'm like, "Oh, yeah, that makes sense. That's totally what I want to do." And so like I just know it's silly like if like cuz I know if I bring pretty much anything to him, even if it's an idea where I'm like, I don't know about this, but this is something I was playing around with, he'll have feedback on it of like, well, like, I mean, he'll have a conversation about it too. Like, he'll ask why I don't like it as much, and so we can
right.
figure out that. Like, he's very good at like teaching composition as long as I am prepared and have stuff to show him. And I think that was a like a positive reinforcement thing for when I was prepared enough.
Yeah, totally. That's cool. Yeah, I was also thinking about like if my music stuff like differs from how I procrastinate with other stuff, and I think it definitely does. I think generally with music related stuff, I'm never like caught off guard by like operational procrastination. Like I don't think there's ever been a circumstance where the reason I didn't start tackling something was because it was like an abstract and I didn't know how to break it down.
I agree with that, and even that might sound a little surprising because like composition,
It seems kind of
it
nebulous.
seems abstract, but like even when I didn't know where to start, I would generally be able to just start playing around with something on the piano. So
Yeah, for me, like if it's like a mix that I have to work on, it's so easy. Like in order to make sure you have studio time in order to work on these kinds of assignments, you have to book it. So that was like a great way for me to like kind of like operational procrastination was not even a thing in those circumstances because if professor was like you have to edit and mix this by next week, then I would like right after the class I would pick times where like this chunk of time I booked would be for editing, this chunk of time would be for mixing, and this chunk of time would be for like finishing up and like whatever. And like that was kind of amazing, even though like at times like booking time is kind of annoying. Like it definitely helped me avoid that type of procrastination.
I definitely just feel a lot more accountable when it comes to music related things. Because I don't know, it just feels like it affects me and my future so much more than anything else.
Yeah.
And then also like it's a lot more personal interaction with any music assignments pretty much than
Yeah.
others.
Yeah. So I guess for me in general, like gen ed stuff, like specifically non-music tech stuff, I would procrastinate more operationally, if that's even the right way to say it. But, you know, like for the research essay, I just wouldn't pick a topic, and if I didn't pick a topic, then I couldn't, you know, do anything else.
Yep.
Whereas, like, when I procrastinate with music tech stuff, and I should also, like, preface this by saying that, like, I don't think I've ever procrastinated, like, an important music tech assignment. I usually procrastinate, I don't even know if this is possible because there's no deadlines, but, like, my own projects.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, cuz like in terms of like composition stuff, like the few times that I had like people lined up to play a piece that I was like mostly done with, it was like that as soon as I scheduled that, like that piece was pretty much like done the next day or very soon after because I was like I am not going to let these people down no matter what, and I'm going to
Right.
do everything I can to make sure. Or like even like one of the pieces that I knew I was going to have to record, I was just playing by myself on the piano. And so I practiced it a bunch, one because it was fun, but also because I was like I knew that I was going to have like about a half hour theoretically, like that was the scheduled time. I had a half hour to record it, and the piece was between like 8 and 10 minutes depending on like how I played it and stuff. But so I was like 2 or 3 takes probably. So I definitely like felt more accountable. Whereas yeah,
I
if
wish
it's
everyone felt that way when they came in to record. Because some people just like, and I haven't run into it too much, like, because, you know, there's higher standards at a university, but like I've heard countless stories of like bands coming in having like with the intention of rehearsing in the studio, which by the way is very
that
expensive.
boggles my mind.
Yeah, it
I
doesn't make any
can't.
sense.
I mean, I think it might also be like sort of an anxiety thing for me because like even if I don't know whoever's recording me, it's like I don't want them to think that I don't know my own music.
Yeah,
Like
which
I
I wish everyone felt that way. You're awesome. But yeah. So yeah, the times that I think at least stick out to me when I have avoidance procrastination is like projects that I care a lot about. That if I don't do well, I will feel bad. I don't know.
yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
But yeah, that's procrastination in a nutshell, I suppose. I don't know if all that fit in a nutshell, but it fit
Yeah,
in this podcast.
it'll fit in a bigger container, but it's
Yeah.
okay. It'll fit in a few nutshells.
Yeah. Okay. So, tangentially related to that, in my opinion, is perfectionism, which is it's an interesting concept on its own, but I think it becomes exponentially more interesting in the conversation about music because, like, there's not really any such thing as perfect in music.
Yeah, that's part of the reason because I really like performing live in front of people. And I have like a little bit of performance anxiety, but I don't think like I have anywhere close to what a lot of people do because I know a lot of musicians and I know a lot of them have performance anxiety. And I will get like a little bit nervous like right when it's about to start maybe, but like I don't get nervous hours beforehand or anything. Like I'm just like and I think part of that is like I am in general like worried about like oh I want to nail this, but if it's something that means a lot to me, like I 100% prepare for it because practicing, I'm a lot more reliable and like self-disciplined when it comes to practicing than when it comes to other things. So I think I'm pretty well prepared most of the time. But I like performing live for people. And again, if something goes horribly wrong, I still feel bad about it, but it's a lot easier for me to just let go of a performance after it's done and just be like, that's what I did. And like people still clapped. Like even if I messed up and I'll know where I messed up and stuff, but I'll be like, it's over. That's the performance. Like, whereas in like, if I'm trying to record something, it can be very frustrating. And this is only if I'm recording myself because like if I'm going and someone else is recording me, like I pretty much treat it like a performance, at least in my mind.
Yep.
But if I'm recording something myself, like I'll do a million takes because I know exactly how I want it to be. And I'm like, if I'm not performing it live, why would I settle for anything other than the absolute best that I think I can do? Whether I can actually do it or not is a different thing. So, yeah, I definitely struggle with perfectionism, but I think it mostly is when I'm recording stuff, like on my own, because I can let it go if it's alive.
Yeah, when no one's there to like stop you from, I guess, nagging on like the littlest things. Yeah, it makes sense. Because like, there's limiters in most places in life. Like if you're recording something, then you're either paying money to have someone record you, or I mean, no matter what, you're usually like if it's a professional recording, you're using someone else's time. So that's a limiter. If while the performance is like you only get to do it once, that's a limiter. But like when you're just left to your own devices, and you have the potential to get it quote unquote perfect, whatever that means, then that's where that happens, probably.
Yeah, and I feel like, because I wouldn't call myself a perfectionist in general, whatsoever. Um, but I feel like I do relate to some perfectionism when it comes to music, just in general, because in my mind, like I always think about whenever I'm preparing any piece of music, whether it's my own or like something else, I always just think about like how I can most effectively express myself through the music.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's not like a perfect idea of every exact sound in a song that I want, but I know that um like if I play it without making any mistakes in what I deem mistakes, and this is especially applicable whenever I'm playing my own music. Um, but if I feel like I like effectively express myself through the music, but like if I have any small slip up, even if it's not a real mistake, like if like sometimes if I'm playing my own music or if I'm playing a different person's music on piano and I use a wrong fingering,
Mm-hmm.
even if I still play it like mostly right, maybe the rhythm's like a little bit but like there's no like blatant mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'll be like, oh well, for that second I wasn't thinking about what do I want to say with this. I was thinking
Right.
about,
The
oh, that
fingering.
finger is in the wrong place, which
Yeah.
is not what I want to be thinking about whenever I'm performing music. And so I think I have an idea of like perfectly expressing myself, but I don't. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
And I mean, learning music incredibly like intricately and technically sound is part of that still. So like
Mm-hmm.
because I have to be able to play everything correctly to begin with to
Yeah.
express myself through it. But I could like go through a piece and not technically make any errors. This especially will happen with my own music. Like I won't
Mm-hmm.
actually mess up anything, but I'll be like, "Oh, I can play that part so much better."
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that can be frustrating.
Yeah. I mean, I feel that. I don't know if I feel that more with my own stuff, or I guess in different ways I feel with the stuff, like the classical stuff that I play, as well as the stuff that I write. Because, like, if I'm playing Debussy, right? He's my favorite composer. At least favorite piano classical composer. Um, like, if I even, okay, so here's the thing about like high level, collegiate level classical piano. Like, at least for me, like I'm bound to mess up a little bit, like the notes. But for me, that's not like the important thing. I mean, obviously, to some, like, as long as it's not a distraction, it's not the important thing. The important thing is that you convey some emotion or like story or something. So there will be a lot of times when I get annoyed or something isn't acceptable because it didn't make me feel anything, you know? Or
Yeah.
it wasn't exactly how I wanted it to come
Well, yeah,
across.
and that's I think part of why I like live performances. And again, I know that this is not the case for everybody, but like if I mess up during a live performance and I don't dwell on it, I'm most of the time afterwards I'll be like, well, I did it as a whole and I expressed myself as a whole. And even if there was a blip throughout the entire thing, like overall, like I still did okay. Whereas like when I can listen back to it right away, then I immediately notice everything because I can, especially when it's immediate playback, then I'm like, I know exactly what was going through my mind right there. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
dang it, dang it. Even if it's like, I don't know, even if it's not something that actually sounds bad or sounds off, I'm just like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I know I was panicking there, so that must not sound good,
Right.
whether it sounds fine or not.
Yeah. The other thing that like annoys me, and I guess it's something that like I'm not that worried about in terms of like fixing the problem. Like it annoys me, but not enough for me to work on it because I'm not a performance major. And I honestly don't think like performance of like classical piano is at like that high of a level is not like an ambition of mine. Like I don't think I'm ever gonna do that as like my career. But something that annoys me a lot is the fact that like the most emotional like true to what I imagine in my head performance of a piece almost always happens in a practice room at like 11 p.m.
Yeah.
And like I don't, at least right now, I don't like have the capacity to like bring that onto a stage. There's just too much else like going on.
Yeah. I definitely also, I think, struggle with perfectionism to an extent. If I'm trying to sing and play piano at the same time, because especially if I'm just like reading chords, I'm always like, oh, I could be playing so much more. Like I can play, because I'll just be playing like, I mean, not like just straight quarter notes, but like, I mean, like it'll just be like generally the same rhythm over and over again. Because I mean, I can do some playing while singing, but I'm not that proficient at it, and so like, I'll like just be messing around with a song that I like or whatever and singing through it, and I'm always like, oh, but you could play such a better accompaniment than that.
Right. Yeah, I never really thought about that because I don't really sing and play piano that much, like together. But that makes sense. And then in terms of like when I'm creating my own music, I think it's the worst when I have like perfectionism. Like that's when I am the most annoyed at myself constantly.
Yeah, I guess another, and I mean, I feel like this is more just me being hard on myself rather than perfectionism, just because in terms of music, like I hardly really ever have an idea that I think is perfect, that I like want to get to. But yeah, when I'm writing my own music, a lot of the times I'll feel kind of paralyzed because I don't want to make it like a basic 1 4 2 5 1 progression or something. Like I don't want to, and I'll be harder on myself than I need to about it. Like if something sounds good, it sounds good, but I'll be like, oh, well, you know more theory than that. Why are you not using an extension of that chord? Why are you not like doing this? And a lot of times that leads me to find cooler sounds that I like. But sometimes it pushes me away from ideas that I like initially, but then I'm like, that's not complex enough.
That's tough. I should also amend my last statement when I said that like I am most like, is perfectionistic a word? I feel like there's a word for what I'm trying to say, but I don't know. I'm like more so perfectionist with my own work, but like specifically recording it. Like I don't think I mean, I'm thorough when I write music, but like I'm not. I don't think I struggle too much with perfectionism there. It's when I record it, specifically like a vocal. It's so bad because like I'm constantly like beating myself up for not being like a better vocalist. Like vocal sessions in the studio they're fun, but like they're tough because like I mean, everyone when they record a lead vocal wants they want it to be perfect, but like it's just not possible with the voice that I have right now. I'm sure if I like, you know, practiced a lot for years, you know, whatever, anything's possible. But like it's just not what I put my time into because it's not really my career path. Once again, you gotta like pick and choose what you want to put time into, and I put my time into tech mostly. But that being said, yeah. Being a perfectionist in the studio is not always great. Sometimes you just gotta like do your best and then fix it in post. I'm kidding. Don't ever do that. Get a good performance.
Sometimes you have to do okay.
Yeah.
Don't have to do your best. You could just
Just do it.
just use most of your effort, but yeah.
Also, the sound of the day today is
This is true. This is true.
just thought I'd let you all know. Let you in on the news. You can make different pitches. It's kind of fun. Changing the resonance in your mouth. It's great. Fun stuff.
It really is.
Okay, so in addition to the sound of the day, which was, we would also like to remind you to listen to Al Coda if you didn't last week. But of course, you all did because that was the homework.
Yeah, so you listened to Rats by Al Coda. First off, after completing that assignment, which I'm sure all of you have,
All 8 billion of you.
Yes. After you listen to that, listen to Monsoon Season.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
I think that's, in my opinion, that's probably their second best song.
It's an old classic.
It is debatable. They have many, many good songs.
Yeah, I would say to listen to What I Have. But I might be biased. Also, Sad is a great song.
That it is.
We we kind of made that song into a bit of a meme last year. I don't know if it was last year or the year before that, but we would just, instead of continuing the song, we would just say we would sing the first line a bunch of times. So we would say, I haven't caught a cold yet. This is a different kind of cold yet. So now you know.
I've definitely done that with many songs. Dude, this is a tangent, but this is another recommendation. Not a real one. But there is a hilarious edit of Beverly Hills by Weezer. And one of the lines, I think this is it. I think he says in one of the lines, he says, like, my automobile is a piece of crap. But they just edit it so everything in the song is a piece of crap. And so, like, it works well throughout the verse because, like, it's, like, the verse structure. And then the chorus, they still do it. And it sounds so bad, but it's hilarious.
What does it sound like if it's like Beverly Hills?
Is a piece of crap. Like, it completely changes the song, but it's something like
hilarious.
that. It's so funny.
That's
Oh
great.
my goodness. I love meme edits of music.
Me too.
Music memes are so funny.
Yeah.
You know the song Chop Suey?
No.
It's okay. It starts off by saying wake up, and then he says like a bunch of other words, and it's like, but it's Chop Suey, but like you forgot but it's your alarm. It's something funnier than that, but that's what it's basically. And it's just wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up. And they did like almost the entire song or the entire song. Like, it's so much work.
Yeah, like
I can't believe people do that.
Yeah, I don't understand it, but I'm so appreciative of them.
I agree. I wholeheartedly agree. So if you listen to Rats and you haven't also yet, you can watch the music video for Rats by Al Coda.
Oh, yeah,
and it's
that's
really
new.
good.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really good music video. I like it a lot. And also give them money so they can make more and even cooler music videos.
Mm-hmm.
Do it or else.
Or else.
Oh, and if you give above $1,000, you legally have to give us 10%. Don't worry. The money will go into the podcast. We will not pay ourselves. We will only improve the production of the podcast. So,
Yep.
thanks for all your money.
In advance. Because we know you're all a very generous audience, all 8 billion of you, including the aliens. I don't know
Yes.
how they'll get their hands on, like, Venmo, but it could work.
You know, if they're smart enough to receive this podcast and listen to it, they can probably just, like, create human currency.
Fair enough.
We'll accept Bitcoin.
Will we?
If you can figure out how to give it to us. Neither of us have a Bitcoin wallet or anything, as far as I'm aware. So. But we'll
I'm
take
on
it.
Coinbase. I'm
Oh.
invested in Bitcoin.
Okay, we'll take it. We'll take it.
Okay. And with that, thank you for tuning in to this week's episode.
Listen, it's been quite a journey. It was raining. It started to rain when we started to record. Now it's bright and sunny out, and it's way too hot.
Yep.
But you were there for it all with us.
Yep. See you next week.